revealed how a billionaire's heart was touched by a cleaner's incredible tea, a life-changing journey. In the heart of Chicago, each dawn unfolded like a tired, worn-out blanket as Jane rose early, her body heavy with fatigue, but her spirit unyielding. For her 8-year-old daughter, Mia, a bright spark with dreams of becoming a Dr. Jane, would labor endlessly. From dusting luxury penthouses to cleaning bustling offices, her hands often felt the weight of the world, yet she brewed a special tea every evening, a cherished recipe from her late mother. As Jane stirred the fragrant ingredients, she envisioned Mia's future, pouring every shred of love and strength into the steaming cup she would pass to her daughter. One fateful morning, while scrubbing the glass-walled penthouse of Mark Reynolds, a billionaire so known for his ruthless business acumen, Jane's bright smile caught his eye. He sat, surrounded by power suits and high-stakes numbers, but at that moment, the world melted away. Mark, with his icy demeanor, found himself surprisingly drawn to the warmth radiating from Jane. When she offered him a steaming cup of her tea, an ancient family remedy known for its soothing comfort, he hesitated. Just for a heartbeat, he was human again, perched on the edge of something real. Thank you, he murmured, taking the cup. As the aroma enveloped him, memories of softer moments flashed through his mind, reminders of a childhood long overshadowed by ambition. Jane's smile was an anchor, realizing that in all that glass and steel, life still thrived outside his fortress. However, as Jane continued her daily grind, life hurled unexpected challenges her way. A frantic call from the hospital shattered her routine. Her father had suffered a heart attack. Panic surged through her. How could she manage the mounting medical bills when survival felt like an uphill battle? Her father, her pillar, now fought for his life, and her dreams swayed like a fragile leaf in a storm. Meanwhile, Mark watched her from the distance, his heartstrings tugged by Jane's quiet strength. Her resilience stirred something deep within him, a pang of empathy he and T felt in years. He knew the world he belonged to had built barriers, but Jane seemed to effortlessly dismantle them, revealing the stark reality of struggle that pulsed outside his towering fortress. Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. As Jane grappled with the crushing weight of medical bills, Mark found himself contemplating a decision that could change everything. Should he remain the powerful titan of industry, cloaked in wealth, or should he immerse himself in Jane's world, where resilience echoes louder than any dollar sign? With each attempt to find solace in her father's hospital room, Jane's heart ached with uncertainty. Would Mark, who viewed life in terms of transactions, be the man who could bridge their worlds? Or would he retreat back into his gilded cage? As hope wavered and tensions mounted, the community around Jane stood united, pouring love and support into a growing fire of resilience. Amidst this storm, would Mark summon the courage to step out from his towers? Would he allow Jane's warmth to change him as it had changed his view of the world? The answers hung heavy in the air, the stakes rising higher, leaving readers breathless, eagerly waiting for the next chapter in their intertwined lives. Jane sat by her father's bedside, her heart drumming in her chest with worry. The fluorescent lights flickered above, casting a sterile glow that felt cold against her skin. She grasped her father's frail hand, feeling the life that once filled it now dimming as he lay there connected to machines that beeped steadily, the only reassurance that he was still with her. Each sound tugged at her heartstrings, reminding her of how intricately life wove together hope and despair. Tears pooled in her eyes as memories flooded her mind. Days spent laughing over cups of tea, long conversations filled with dreams, and advice her father had always been her guiding star. She couldn't let him go. Not now. Not when Mia needed him, and, truthfully, neither of them would be okay without him. Mark, who had driven past the hospital many times in his pristine black SUV, suddenly found himself parked outside, staring at the building as if it were a fortress. For the first time, The walls that separated him from the world around him felt less like security and more like isolation. He wanted to push through those doors and reach out to Jane, to offer something more than shallow condolences. All those moments he spent watching her resilience from afar suddenly fueled a realization deep within him: wealth built walls. But it was love that shattered them. As Jane slipped out for a moment of air, needing a reprieve from the suffocating room. She paused to collect herself. The night was cool, the city lights twinkling like stars above the urban chaos. Deep breaths filled her lungs, each one grazing the edge of clarity. Suddenly, Mark appeared, stepping into view. She turned, surprised. "What are you doing here?" she asked, her tone a mix of confusion and hope. "I wanted to see how you're holding up," he replied gently. His voice was sincere, the steel facade he usually wore softened in her presence. I know this isn't easy for you." Jane looked at him, vulnerability painting her face. "It's not just bills or medical forms. My father is everything to me. If I lose him..." Her voice trailed off, unable to voice the fear that loomed like a shadow. Mark took a step closer, the distance between them filled with unspoken words. He had dealings worth millions, yet standing here with Jane, he realized none of that mattered. "You don't have to face this alone," he said, the calm authority in his voice surprising even him. "Let me help." "What do you mean?" she asked, defensive yet desperate for reassurance. Looking into his eyes, she saw a spark, a flicker of understanding. "I don't know how I can fully fix this, but I can help with the financial burden," he said. "If it eases your mind, even a little, let me take care of the medical expenses. I'll make sure your father gets the best care." Jane's breath hitched. The idea felt both a lifeline and a trap. "And what do you want in return?" she asked cautiously, fearing the strings that might come attached. "Nothing," he exclaimed, frustration spilling from him. Just your trust. A chance to show you a different side of me." In that moment, the air around them crackled with unfilled possibilities. Could she truly trust him? Would stepping into his world bring them closer together or merely expose her to more heartache? Jane stared into the depths of his eyes, searching for answers that seemed shrouded in uncertainty. The stakes had never felt so high. One decision could change everything. What if she started, her voice barely above a whisper? "What if this doesn't change anything?" Mark leaned closer, determination shaping his expression. "Then at least I will have tried." The warmth of his presence felt safe but uncertain, and Jane's heart pounded with the weight of her next words. Could she take a leap of faith in a man she barely knew? Could he help mend the cracks in her life without breaking her heart in the process? The hospital's fluorescent lights flickered, punctuating the moment with a sense of urgency. Decisions lay heavy in the air between them, waiting to be unveiled, poised to determine the fate of two worlds clashing. Against the backdrop of love and loss, would she find the strength to embrace the unknown, or would fear snatch away the chance of a blossoming bond? The night stretched ahead, a canvas waiting for their choices to paint a new future. Jane felt the weight of the moment press down on her. She took a deep breath, trying to shake off the uncertainty that wrapped around her like a heavy blanket. "I need to think," she finally said, not wanting to make a snap decision but knowing time was slipping away. Mark nodded, his expression understanding but hopeful. "Of course," he replied softly, "but please don't wait too long. Time is precious. Your father deserves everything you can provide for him. You deserve peace of mind." His words knocked some air out of her lungs. Peace of mind felt like a foreign concept these days, a luxury she could barely grasp. She glanced back at the hospital entrance, remembering the way her father had once walked through those doors, full of life. Now, he lay inside, fragile and vulnerable, and she didn't know if he would ever walk out again. "Let me give you some space," Mark suggested, sensing her turmoil. "I'll be nearby if you need to talk more." As he stepped back, Jane felt a gust of cool night air wrap around her, invigorating yet bittersweet. She stood there, trying to gather her thoughts, when suddenly a small voice broke through her guilt and confusion. "Jane!" Mia raced toward her, her little legs pumping with excitement. The innocence in her face was both a balm and a dagger. At 6 years old, she didn't yet understand the gravity of their situation. "Mia, sweetheart." Jane knelt down, pulling her into a tight hug. "What are you doing here?" "I wanted to see Grandpa," the little girl replied, her voice muffled against Jane's shoulder. "Is he going to be okay?" Jane pushed down the wave of emotion rising within her. She didn't have the heart to tell Mia the truth. We're hoping for the best, honey. What is hoping? Mia asked, pulling back to look at her mother with wide eyes. It's when you wish for something good to happen, Jane answered, feeling the weight of the unspoken fears pressing on her heart. Mia's face lit up. Then let us wish really hard, she exclaimed, her innocence dancing through the darkness that enveloped them. Jane couldn't help but smile, even amidst her despair. Just then, Mark reappeared, his expression shifting from solemn to warm as he knelt to Mia's level. Hey there, little one. Your grandpa is one tough cookie. I bet he'd love to hear your wishes. What do you want to tell him? With her eyes shining bright, Mia looked at Mark as if he were the most wonderful person she had ever met. I want him to come home and have hot chocolate with us. Jane felt a lump form in her throat. That image, a simple family moment, felt so far away. She glanced at Mark, who was clearly touched by the child's sincerity. For the first time, she sensed a bond forming between them, tethered by a shared desire to protect and nurture what they held dear. Hot chocolate it is, Mark said, nodding thoughtfully. I promise you, I'll help in any way I can, so you can have that moment. Jane's heart wavered. Could she really trust him? The warmth he radiated hugged her fears softly, but vulnerability still stirred within her. Okay, she replied slowly, her voice raw. If you're serious about helping, maybe I can accept your offer, at least for now. But I need you to promise not to pull away once we get through this. Mark looked her straight in the eyes, determination etched in every feature. You have my word. I won't let you down, Jane. A mixture of hope and trepidation echoed in the air. As the weight of their decision hung between them, Jane thought about her father and the little girl who stood beside her. The stakes were high, and there was much to lose. But as a cool breeze rustled the leaves in the trees nearby, Jane felt a flicker of warmth ignite deep within her. Perhaps taking a leap of faith wasn't as frightening when holding on to hope. As they stood there, three souls entwined in uncertainty, Jane realized the journey ahead might just forge unbreakable bonds if only they could weather the storm together. The night was still young, but the following dawn would unleash an avalanche of choices that would either break or build their fragile connection. Would Jane be ready to face the raw truth of her feelings, or would the fear of losing everything push her away from an unexpected ally? The air felt heavier as dawn broke, spilling golden light over the hospital's stark facade. Jane rubbed her eyes, the sleep clinging to her like an unwelcome guest. The promise of the day loomed before her, and with it came an avalanche of decisions. Would her father rally? What path lay ahead for her, Mia, and even Mark? As she stepped into the lobby, the sterile scent of antiseptic hit her nose, grounding her in reality. Pictures lined the walls of recoveries and smiles, each photo a reminder of hope even in the direst of circumstances. She swallowed hard and held on to Mia's small hand, feeling the warmth radiate from her daughter. They approached the nurse's station, where a kind nurse smiled at them. Morning. You must be here to see Mr. Thompson. He is stable but a bit sleepy from the medication, the nurse explained, her tone gentle and comforting. Thank you, Jane managed to reply, taking in the information. Stability was good, wasn't it? She glanced at Mia, whose innocent optimism still radiated. Can we go see him now? Of course, the nurse said, leading the way down the hallway. Each step felt like heavy lead, but Mia's chatter about hot chocolate and games propelled Jane forward. The door. The nurse paused, looking at Jane with a soft gaze. He may not respond much, but he can hear you. Talk to him. It could lift his spirits. Taking a breath, Jane nodded, pushing the door open slowly. The room felt too quiet, the kind of silence that settled deep in one's bones. Her father lay there, small and still, connected to monitors that beeped steadily, a broken angel tethered to machines. Grandpa, Mia shouted, ripping the tension apart. Jane's heart swelled at her daughter's boundless affection. Quietly, she approached the bed, Mia right beside her. Hey, Dad, Jane started, her voice trembling. It's me, Jane. I'm here with Mia. We've been wishing really hard for you to get better. Mia climbed on the chair beside the bed, her little hand reaching for her grandfather's. We want you home, Grandpa. Please come back. We can have hot chocolate. The words spilled out of the child's mouth with such innocence that it was as if they wrapped a warm blanket around Jane's heart. For a moment, she too wished for that simple reality: hot chocolate, laughter, the smell of baked goods in their cozy kitchen. But then reality jabbed sharply at Jane, pressing down on her like a weight. What if he couldn't come back? The thought was like ice in her veins. "You're such a tough guy, Dad," she whispered, her voice breaking. "If anyone can do it, it's you." Tears threatened to fall, but she blinked them away, determined not to indulge in grief just yet. Suddenly, the door creaked open, and Mark stood there, slightly unsure. Jane caught his eye, grateful for his presence, but not ready to bridge the gap that still felt wide and fragile. "I thought I'd come by and check in," he said, his voice a gentle murmur in the room. Mia turned, brightening at the sight of him. "Mark, come talk to Grandpa. He needs to hear your wishes too." Jane glanced at Mark, searching his face for any hesitation. But what she saw was warmth, an understanding in his eyes that made her heart flutter in unexpected ways. Was it courage, compassion, or something more dangerous? As Mark approached, Jane felt an unexplainable connection, but also uncertainty. Could she let him into this moment, into the vulnerability of her family? "I believe in you, Mr. Thompson," Mark spoke softly, leaning slightly closer to the bed. "Day by day, we'll see you rise. You can do this." Looking back at Mark, she felt a rush of complicated emotions, the walls she had built slowly starting to crack. His presence felt grounding, yet it also made her heart race in ways she hadn't anticipated. When Mark met her gaze, the air shifted, charged with an energy that made her skin tingle. Their worlds were merging in that hospital room, filled with heart-wrenching realities and flickers of hope. The scene hung thick with unspoken promises and possibilities, each heartbeat echoing with tension. Could she allow herself to reach beyond the pain and embrace what could bloom from the chaos? As they lingered in that moment, the stakes grew higher. Would Jane open her heart enough to see what lay on the other side of fear? And would she risk her feelings for the chance at connection? Tomorrow would bring new choices, a day that could change everything. Would she be brave enough to face them? The next morning, the glow of dawn was softer, almost hesitant, as if it too sensed the delicate situation inside the hospital. Jane woke early, her mind already racing through possibilities. She sat up in her chair, ruffling her fingers through her messy hair, welcoming the wave of fatigue that pressed down on her. The coffee in her hand felt warm and comforting, yet it couldn't shake the chill in her heart. Mia was still asleep, curled up in a cozy ball beside her, a picture of innocence amid the swirling anxieties of adult life. Jane swallowed hard, the reality of her father's condition settling deeper. Would they get the chance to share more hot chocolates? More laughter? She grimaced at the thought and took a long sip of her coffee. Her heart raced with thoughts of Mark. He was a solid presence, not just yesterday, but always, like an anchor she never knew she needed. The way he looked at her, genuine, understanding, full of promise, made her feel seen. But could she allow herself to be vulnerable? Would letting him in mean treading into dangerous territory? With Mia stirring, Jane rose and adjusted her posture, stretching slightly. They had a busy day ahead. After breakfast in the hospital cafeteria, they would check in on her father. The soft sounds of machines and nurses moving down the halls might bring both comfort and anxiety. It was a mix that was becoming all too familiar. As they walked the halls, Mia skipped ahead, humming a little tune, her joy unwavering even in such dreary surroundings. Jane couldn't help but smile, the beacon of her daughter's optimism bringing a flicker of warmth to her heart. Maybe she could learn to find some signs of hope, even when the future felt foggy. Arriving at her father's room, the air felt different this time. Maybe it was because of Mark's earlier visit, or perhaps because she wanted to believe things could get better. She felt Mia squeeze her hand, the little girl's eyes wide with determination. "Let us cheer him on, Mommy." "Okay, let us do it together," Jane encouraged, her voice steadying with each word. "I know he can hear you." Mia stepped forward, her small body practically vibrating with excitement. "Grandpa, I brought you a picture I drew. It's of you and me drinking hot chocolate. When you wake up, we can do that again." Jane blinked back tears as she watched her daughter expressing her love so openly. It was beautiful and heartbreaking at the same time. Her father needed strength, He needed to feel this joyous spirit surrounding him. As she settled into her spot, Jane took a deep breath. Today was not just about her father. It was a moment to confront her own fears, the fear of connection, the fear of loss, and the fear of facing the unknown. She had to remind herself that her heart had the capacity to love, even when it was heavy. The door creaked open, and Mark stepped in, holding a steaming cup of herbal tea. "Good morning," he said gently, his voice warming the room. "I thought this might help. It's a blend I found soothing." Surprise flickered in Jane's eyes as she accepted the cup. "Thank you, Mark. Anytime," he smiled, his eyes lingering on her face. "I thought, maybe, we could sip that and talk after you're done here?" An unexpected flutter traveled up Jane's spine. Did he really mean that? Did he want to talk about something deeper? Mia waved her fingers at him, momentarily capturing his attention. "Can we all drink hot chocolate together when Grandpa wakes up?" Jane watched Mark's face soften, and a shared smile blossomed between them, a silent understanding of what it meant to hope. As they settled into this fragile moment, an unspoken pact binding their lives together, the uncertainties loomed, heavier than ever. What if they weren't ready for the connections that were forming? Could they truly face the storm ahead? With a heart pounding with possibility, Jane took a sip of her tea, adrenaline curling around the anticipation of tomorrow's choices and the life waiting to unfold. This wasn't tea just about her father anymore. It was about her too. In this tiny hospital room, Jane couldn't shake the feeling. There was something waiting just beyond the horizon, something that would change everything. Would she be brave enough to grasp it? The morning crept forward, each tick of the clock echoing louder in Jane's ears. She held the warm cup in her hands, feeling its heat seep through her skin, a small comfort amidst the uncertainty. Mia was babbling on excitedly about her drawing, her innocent enthusiasm filling the room with a dull hum of hope. Mark leaned against the doorway, watching Jane and Mia, a soft smile on his face. Jane couldn't help but admire how effortlessly he seemed to bring light into the life they were navigating. But even as she smiled back, the weight of worry settled heavily on her chest. The new bond forming between them felt fragile, and she sensed its potential dangers looming. "Can I see the drawing?" Mark knelt beside Mia, and Jane watched them interact. It felt so natural, so warm. Mia proudly held up her artwork. "This is us drinking hot chocolate. Grandpa will love it. That's beautiful. You could be an artist one day," Mark exclaimed, his enthusiasm genuine. Mia giggled, flattered by his praise. Jane took a deep breath, trying to center herself in the moment. "It helps to distract me," she admitted softly to Mark while Mia was busy chatting excitedly about her masterpiece. "To focus on the good parts." Mark nodded, his expression serious for a moment. "It's okay to focus on the hard parts too. You know? Sometimes that's where the real strength lies." Jane met his gaze and felt a jolt of something deeper than friendship sparked between them. He saw her. The messy, chaotic reality of her life didn't scare him away. It intrigued him. She wrestled with the urge to clench her fists around her fears, but she couldn't ignore the small voice whispering that maybe she deserved connection. Moments slipped by, their shared space growing more intimate with the laughter echoing off the sterile walls. Jane swallowed the lump in her throat. "It's just hard to imagine life moving forward without my dad, without his laughter filling the kitchen like it used to." Mark leaned in closer, his voice low and tender. "You're not alone in this. You have Mia, and you have me." Jane looked down at the empty space on the chair beside her. Her father's place felt like an aching gap, one she couldn't fill, but the thought of letting Mark in felt just as daunting. What if he got too close? What if he saw her fears, her insecurities? "But what if I let you in and it makes everything harder? Then we'll tackle it together, one step at a time," he replied. His confidence was infectious. The warmth from his promise seeped into Jane, sparking a flicker of courage within. Just then, a soft beep from the machines in her father's room broke the spell. Jane's heart raced as she turned toward the sound. She needed to know how he was doing. It had been too quiet for too long. But as she faced that uncertainty, Mark placed a reassuring hand on her shoulder. "Are you ready?" he asked, his voice steady. She nodded, though doubt flickered in her chest. "Ready as I'll ever be." They stepped closer to the bed, Mia still bubbling with enthusiasm behind them. As Jane looked at her father lying so still, life felt surreal. There was a connection forming, one rooted in hope and a raw understanding of love and loss. For the first time in days, she could almost see the possibility of a brighter future, one that would include healing and laughter again. But there was still an overwhelming tension hanging in the room, a signature note of uncertainty that left Jane wrestling with her thoughts. Would the connection she had with Mark pull her away from her family when she needed to be focused on healing? Just as she contemplated this, a nurse entered the room with a clipboard, and Jane's stomach dropped. She had a sinking feeling that news was coming, and no amount of strength could prepare her for it. "Jane," the nurse called with a serious tone, and Jane felt her heart race again, bracing for impact. What was going to be revealed? Would it shatter the fragile peace they had forged, or would it somehow illuminate their path forward? Jane felt her heart pounding in sync with the uncertainty swirling around them. What lay ahead could change everything. The nurse's voice hung in the air, heavy with unspoken weight. "We need to discuss your father's condition," she said, stepping further into the room, the clipboard clutched tightly in her hands. Jane's breath caught in her throat. Mark's reassuring touch lingered on her shoulder, but even that felt fragile under the weight of dread pressing down on her. Mia sensed the tension, her chatter fading into an uneasy silence, her small fingers gripping the edge of the drawing board. "Please, sit." The nurse gestured towards the chairs by the bedside, her expression serious but not devoid of compassion. Jane hesitated only a moment before sinking into the plastic seat, feeling every ounce of strength drained from her body as she battled the instinct to flee. "Is it bad?" Jane's voice cracked. "Is he?" The words hung there, a terrible question that she didn't want to finish. Mark's presence beside her was a steadying force, but she couldn't shake the fear that their fragile moment of connection might shatter at any moment. The nurse took a slow breath. "We've been monitoring your father's progress closely, and while he's stable for now, there are complications. I would recommend preparing for the possibility of needing additional support." Mia looked up, her wide eyes darting between the nurse and her mother. "What support, Mommy?" she asked, her voice small, puncturing the tension with innocence. Jane's heart sank. "It means he might need help to get better, sweetie," she managed, glancing at Mark. His open expression was comforting, but fear bubbled beneath her skin. How was she supposed to explain this to Mia? Mark's hand moved to Jane's, intertwining their fingers. The warmth of his grip offered a small moment of solace, something to hold on to as the ground beneath her seemed to shift. "What kind of help?" Mark asked, his voice calm, professional even. The nurse shifted her attention to him. "Possibly a transfer to a specialized facility. We can provide more information and support, but it's crucial we act swiftly." The words specialized facility echoed in Jane's mind, coupled with the image of her father's vibrant laughter, and joy felt like a punch to the gut. "Do you think he could get better?" she whispered, the vulnerability of her question hanging heavily in the air. "It is possible," the nurse replied gently. "We must remain hopeful, but need to prepare for every outcome. Your father needs the best support we can provide." Jane felt the heat of tears pricking at her eyelids. "I don't want to lose him." Mia leaned against Jane, her small frame offering unexpected strength. Jane wrapped her arm around her daughter, suddenly aware that this moment was bigger than just her father's health. It was about family, love, and what truly mattered. Mark's voice broke through her thoughts, soft but strong. "We'll figure this out together, Jane. One step at a time, remember?" His words sank deep within her, igniting a flicker of determination. As Jane looked into his eyes, she realized that navigating this storm didn't mean losing herself or her family. Instead, it could be an opportunity for transformation through the assistance of loved ones, including Mark. As they faced the uncertainty ahead, the nurse cleared her throat. "I'll give you some time to discuss things, but please know that we are here to help." She stepped back, giving them a moment of privacy. Silence fell, punctuated only by the steady beep of machinery. It was a gentle reminder of life, both fragile and resilient. Jane turned to Mark, something unspoken passing between them, an understanding that was forming below the surface. "Maybe I can bring your dad his favorite tea next time," Jane said, an idea taking root. "Something comforting for him." Mark smiled, his eyes lighting up. "That is perfect. Tea was always his favorite. Plus, I could ask my mom for some family recipes to share, maybe a little taste of home. In that moment, Jane felt the first glimmer of a plan, glancing at Mia, whose innocent hope mirrored the flicker of strength building within her. But even as she painted a picture of warmth and healing, the shadow of uncertainty loomed. Would they genuinely heal together? And could the love and support from those around her truly make a difference? As Jane took a deep breath, preparing to press forward into the unknown, her heart pounded with the realization that whatever came next, she wouldn't face it alone. But just as she began to envision that future, another sound from the machines startled them all, the alarms blaring like a warning shot, slicing through their moment of vulnerability. What now? Jane gasped, her grip tightening around Mia as panic set in. The flickering lights in the room seemed to mirror her thoughts. What awaited them next could change everything. The alarms blared with an unforgiving urgency, slicing through the fragile hope that surrounded them. The chaotic beeping echoed in Jane's ears, drowning out everything else. Her heart raced. She felt as if time had suddenly pressed pause. "Mommy?" Mia's little voice quivered as she looked up at Jane, her innocence still shining through the fear. Jane took a deep breath, fighting back tears. "It's okay, sweetheart. Stay close." Her voice was steadier than she felt. Mark's brow furrowed, his eyes scanning the room. He stood up, moving toward the nurse's station. "We need help," he called, urgency propelling him forward. The nurse rushed in, her face a mask of concern. "Let us check his vitals," she said, stepping toward the bedside. In that moment, Jane felt like she was free-falling again, each moment strung together with the tension and fear of the unknown. "Is it serious?" Jane barely whispered. She clutched Mia tighter as the nurse quickly assessed her father's condition. He lay there, still, the machinery around him a grim reminder of his fragility. After an agonizing few moments, the nurse straightened, her expression softening slightly. "He's responding. We just need to stabilize him a bit more. I need you to step outside for a moment," she said, her tone firm but kind. "No, I can't leave him," Jane insisted, panic rising like bile in her throat. Mark stepped closer, placing a hand on her shoulder again. "Jane, we have to let them work. Let us just step outside, okay?" His voice was a lifeline, steady against the storm raging within her. "Right, Mommy. I'll be right here," Mia added, her small hand squeezing Jane's as they begrudgingly stepped out into the stark hallway, leaving her father behind. The fluorescent lights buzzed, harsh and unflattering, mixing with the hushed murmurs of other concerned families. They found a small waiting area tucked away, and Jane sank into a chair, her heart still pounding. Mark perched on the armrest beside her, a comforting presence, even as a wave of anxiety trapped Jane's thoughts. "What if?" she started, her voice breaking. He turned to her, eyes earnest. "We can't go there yet. We need to focus on the now. What we'll do next? What if we lose him?" The question hung heavily between them, a specter of despair. Jane didn't want to voice the thought, but it slipped through her lips, a haunting whisper. A heavy silence blanketed them until Mark spoke, his voice gentle and firm. "He's a fighter, Jane. We've got to believe in that. And we'll be here for him. You and Mia will be his strength." As Jane listened to him, a flicker of strength shone within. She regarded Mia, holding her favorite stuffed rabbit, looking lost in thought. The little girl was trying to process so much, yet held such a quiet resilience. It reminded Jane of her own father, how he had always reinforced the importance of being there for one another. Just then, a door swung open, and the nurse stepped out, her expression balanced between urgency and calm. "Your father has stabilized. He's fighting, and he needs you to be strong for him too." Relief washed over Jane, momentarily drowning out her worry. She stood up, her nerves jangling. "Can we see him now?" "Yes, but keep your voices low. He's in and out of consciousness." As they made their way back, Jane squeezed Mia's hand, committing to be the foundation her father needed. Each step felt lighter, filled with purpose and power. As they entered the room, Jane was greeted by the sight of her father lying peacefully, despite the machines humming softly around him. His skin was pale, but there was something about his expression, the subtle hint of a smile, as if he could sense them near. "Dad, we're here," Jane said softly, her heart swelling with a blend of fear and hope. But just as she took a step closer, The heart monitor's beeping increased in rhythm, and another alarm echoed, louder this time. Jane's heart sank deeper. Why is it doing that? She gasped, fear gripping her again. Mark's grip tightened. Stay calm, Jane. Stay right here. The nurse rushed in again, and just as she reached for the controls, Jane felt the world around her begin to tilt. Would they be prepared for what was next? Would they truly have the strength to go on this journey together? Everything hinged on this moment. The beeping escalated, each pulse a jarring reminder of the thin line between life and uncertainty. Jane's breath hitched as she watched the nurse scramble beside her father. Mia, still clutching her stuffed rabbit, instinctively edged closer to Jane, her eyes wide and questioning. Stay back, sweetheart, Jane whispered, though her own heart felt like it was trapped, echoing the frantic beeps from the machine. Dad, Mia broke in, her small voice cutting through the chaos. Wake up, please wake up. It broke Jane's heart to hear such raw desperation from her little girl. She knelt down beside Mia, wrapping her arms around her tight. Shoo, baby. It's okay. The doctors are helping him, Jane murmured, though she too was fighting the swirl of anxiety in her chest. Mark stood beside them, his presence a still shield against their fears. The nurse shouted something about needing to stabilize the heart rate, her voice firm but distracted. Jane couldn't focus on the words. Thoughts raced through her head, memories of her father's laughter, his countless stories, his love for the simple things. Would he still tell those stories? Would Mia grow up hearing his jokes or learning from his wisdom? Suddenly, a doctor rushed in, pushing past the nurse with a sense of urgency. He was tall, with dark hair, and there was an intensity in his gaze that demanded attention that Jane felt slipping away. Is this your father? He asked quickly, urgency threading through his words. Yes, it is, Jane managed, rising from her kneel, the instinct to protect pulling her to a stand. We're going to need to take immediate action, the doctor said as he began to check her father's chart. He's showing signs of distress. It's critical we address this now. Panic rose in Jane's throat, threatening to choke her. What does that mean? She barely managed to ask, her voice a quiver. The doctor turned, and for the briefest moment, his eyes softened with a hint of empathy. It means we need to act quickly. He's a fighter, but we need to intervene now. It's going to be okay. Jane felt her heart crack at the uncertainty laid bare in his words. The haunting what-ifs loomed larger than ever. She squeezed her eyes shut, fighting back tears. There was a fight in her father, a fire that had always burned bright. Would it still be there? Would they find a way to hold on to this moment? Through the chaos, Mia's little hand slipped into her own, grounding her amidst the storm. Mommy, will he stay with us? Can he come home? Jane opened her eyes, her insides tightening around the truth she dreaded to voice. We've got to believe he will, my love. We've got to hold on to hope. The doctor nodded, signaling the nurse to prepare for emergency procedures. Jane felt a rush of emotions, intertwining hope with fear. Moments flew into each other, and time felt elastic. Days in a heartbeat, lives in a gasp. As they prepared her father for more intense care, Jane felt something shift in the air around her. It was subtle but significant, a flicker of determination. She couldn't let go. Not now. Not when it mattered the most. Mia needed her to be strong, and somehow, her father needed that from her too. Mark caught her gaze, and she saw the same fire reflecting there. It whispered to her that they would get through this together. They had to, no matter what. The doctor gave a hurried command, and amidst the pounding beeping, Jane promised herself she would be the voice of strength in this hospital filled with shadows. But just before they wheeled her father out, a commotion erupted from the corner of the room. Jane turned, drawn by instinct to the sudden upheaval. There was shouting, confusion. A person had collapsed near the waiting area. What is happening? Jane's heart rate surged again. What next could this night bring? In a heartbeat, Jane could feel her world shift yet again. The chaos swirled like a storm. Uncertainty clung to every corner of the hospital's dimly lit waiting area. Jane's heart raced, the alarms ringing in her ears now sounding like ghosts haunting her every thought. Her father was fighting for his life, and now there was a panic overwhelming the front line of medical personnel. She held Mia tightly, her small frame trembling against her mother's warmth as they braced for whatever came next. Mark's ever the steady anchor, positioned himself protectively beside them, his strong presence fighting off the tempest of dread. "Stay here, both of you," Mark said, moving toward the chaos, and every instinct screamed to follow. But Jane couldn't leave Mia behind. Seconds stretched into what felt like hours. A murmur rose among the gathered crowd as nurses rushed to the scene, their voices full of urgency. "Get a doctor," someone called out, and the tension in the air escalated, wrapping Jane in a vice of anxiety. "Mommy, what is happening?" Mia's voice was small, but laced with confusion and worry. Jane knelt, meeting her daughter's gaze, the weight of assurance heavy on her lips. "Just some people getting help, sweetheart. Just like Grandpa. Everything is going to be okay." But Jane's heart wasn't convinced. Could she promise that? She felt the fragile threads of control slipping through her fingers. Just then, Mark returned, breathless but focused. "They're taking care of it. They just need to stabilize him," he said, his voice reassuring yet firm. "Let us not forget what's important. Your dad is fighting. We all need to fight too." At that moment, amidst the swirling discomfort and fear, something awakened in Jane. She could either dwindle in despair or step into the strength she always carried for her father, Mia, and now even for Mark. She straightened her back, inhaling courage deeply. "You're right. My dad needs me. We'll be strong together. Let us wait for news, okay?" Mark said quietly, joining them, the warmth of his hand on her shoulder radiating a promise. The minutes passed like falling leaves, each one heavy with longing, desperation, and hope. Jane found herself watching over Mia, who had curled up against her, eyes blinking sleepily. "I wish for hot chocolate, Mommy," Mia said suddenly, her words breaking the silence that clung to them. "Just like we said for Grandpa, when he wakes up." With her heart swelling, Jane felt the power of that wish, simple yet profound. "Me too, honey. Let us wish for all the hot chocolates in the world." Just saying it felt like an anchor, one that held her to the shores of hope, reminding her of the joys that still existed beyond this hospital's walls. Finally, after what felt like a lifetime, a doctor approached them. His expression bore the weight of hard truths, yet a glimmer of hope flickered behind the exhaustion. "Jane Thompson?" "Yes," she replied, her heart racing as she searched his face for answers. "We've stabilized your father. He is currently in critical care, and we've moved him to a specialized unit. He'll need close monitoring, but he is fighting." Relief poured out of her in a tidal wave, crashing against the walls of her fear. "Can we see him?" she asked. "Not for a little while. They're ensuring he is comfortable. But you can wait in here. I'll have the nurses keep you updated." He laid a reassuring hand on her shoulder, then retreated down the corridor, leaving behind the echo of relief mingled with anxiety. As silence returned again, Jane glanced at Mark, who stood quietly beside her, eyes trying to decipher all the emotions swirling within. Without saying a word, their hands found one another, fingers intertwining. It was a promise, a connection that she had been hesitant to allow, but now felt necessary. "Thank you for being here," she breathed, her heart settling slightly. "I'll always be here, Jane. We'll face this together," Mark replied, determination lining his voice. "Will we, though?" Just then, Mia broke their moment, her voice chirping with innocence. "Can we play a game while we wait? I want to draw more pictures." In that simple suggestion, Jane rediscovered a flicker of normalcy. The future remained uncertain, yet spirit still thrived, and love wrapped them tighter than any fear could unravel. As they joined Mia on a nearby chair, the interplay of colors and laughter filled the room around them, a beautiful reminder that even in the face of chaos, life carried on, filled with wonder and hope. As the night wore on and the shadows flickered on the walls, Jane realized that transformation was taking place, not just within her father's fight, but also within her own heart. She was learning to embrace the unknown, to not merely survive, but to thrive among those she loved. Jane squeezed Mark's hand, an invisible thread connecting their addresses. Whatever lay ahead, they were ready to rewrite the narratives of their lives together. And with Mia joyfully creating in the corner, their stories intertwined and grew brighter. Their world would change, but it would dance in the rhythm of resilience and connection, where love would always echo through the halls of uncertainty. Now more than ever, Jane held on to hope. It filled the spaces in her heart that once felt hollow. The dawn would break again. But for now, she was thankful for the warmth of this moment. As they faced the new day, she was ready. Together, they would find their way. And for anyone watching their story from the sidelines, the lesson etched deep into her heart rang clear. Life's greatest transformations come from the choices to open up, embrace love, and allow light to flow through even the darkest clouds. Speaking of transformation, don't wait another second. Subscribe immediately to the channel so you don't miss out on the next exclusive stories filled with hope and heart. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm and help more hearts connect with our journey. Comment below to share your reactions and feelings about this powerful ending. Your voice matters. And share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this transformation. Remember, true fans understand the importance of supporting the channel in these ways.